On today's episode of Studio Knowledge, we're going to talk about your listening environment. Okay, one of the most important things for your music production is usually the last thing on everyone's list. And the reason why is it's the least sexy and most expensive at times. Okay? And that's talking about your acoustics in your room, your listening environment. Why is it so important? Well, it doesn't matter how much you spent on those microphones, preamps, whatever it may be, if it's not translating well enough to what you hear and what it ends up being in the real world. Okay? If you have not enough bass in your room being represented, you're going to crank the bass to try and compensate for the lack of bass that you're hearing. And then when you listen to it in your car, it's going to be way too bass heavy. Okay? So you need to have your room sounding really good. Now there are some crude ideas of how to get your acoustics just right. But here are some principles to at least address and to think about when you are addressing your studio, your room, etc. Okay? Acoustics kind of break down into absorbers and diffusers. Okay? Obviously, absorbers are going to absorb the sound and diffusers are going to break up the sound. Not all absorbers are created equal, and they're only going to absorb so many frequencies in a different way. Diffusers I like better because it's going to keep the natural sound of the room, and it's going to break up essentially the sound that's bouncing around. Most of you are in studios or home studios where you're going to have parallel surfaces. Okay, you have two walls, and then you have your two back walls, and then you have your floor and ceiling, all parallel surfaces. Okay, and when that sound hits the sound or hits those surfaces, it's going to bounce back and forth. Okay, and some things are going to dissipate really quickly, and some are going to enhance. We don't want those things. Okay. Whereas with so one of the ways to correct that is to actually have frequency absorbers and diffusers. Now, how much is that going to cost? Where do I place, each thing? And how can I get my room to sound better? Well, I'm so glad you asked. Okay, one of the cheapest ways, again, one of the best ways that I like are diffusers. One of the cheapest ways to make or to have a diffuser is to actually, the idea of a diffuser is to have different surfaces kind of sticking out, so you're not going to have that parallel wall. The biggest thing is you're going to want to address the wall that's exactly behind you. Wherever the speakers are, the first thing that they're going to usually hit is that back wall, and it's going to bounce off the back wall and then come right back to you. So you want to be able to break up that sound. One of the cheapest ways you can do that is actually having bookshelves. Have a bookshelf behind on that back wall, and then place all your books, because not all books are going to be the same shape, right? So it's going to kind of break up that sound. So that's a nice, easy, cheap way to do it. With frequency absorbers, you want to find quality foam. Now, I recommend Owens cornering and then fabric wrapping it. Don't do a bunch of the egg crate stuff. Don't use, the memory foam. That's going to suck the frequencies and the energy out, and it's going to sound like a vacuum. It's not going to sound real natural, and you're making your sweet spot smaller. Okay, so you don't need, again, even floor to ceiling acoustic paneling as well. there are definitely kits that are good that you can buy that will help you get set up. Um, Prima Acoustic makes really good kits. Again, it's quality foam, quality diffusers. There's all kinds of information out there on acoustics. There's the old way of doing it, and then there's the new way. The new way is really pretty incredible. Go check out Delta H Design. Hanson Shoe over there is doing some crazy things for audio and listening environments. Now, again, they are expensive, but in my book, they're the best because they're not trying to reduce the sweet spot. They're actually trying to make the sweet spot the whole room. Um, and they've got the science to back it up. And I mean, it's pretty incredible. But you may not be able to afford that yet. But starting out, I would get in a Prima acoustic kit. They have them at Sweetwater. You can go to their website. Again, I'll have all the links in the description. But it's something to consider. You really need to get your listening environment intact, so what you are hearing or what you want to hear is actually being translated and represented in your final mix and end result. Okay? So I hope this helps, and we'll talk again real soon.